All right. And it's it for our kodo. What's in the programming? Which consider and be wabo 6:40 and 6:40. Yeah, 6:45. I believe there will be beyond who ye. I want to kodo. What's in hinara? It's in chia. It's my own hinara. Titu original kotodwe. Na opinion queen and now question. I wakakomodo. It's in chia. It's more. At least for doing the listening. And if you and you are no waka hinara for some reason maybe yɛyim hɔ no yɛgye dzi dɛ obi biara no ho yi ɛwɔ hɔ dama na wɔte no ɔnam bɔɔl na wɔbɔbɔ no nti World Cup final no nti yɛ nyama ntɛntɛm ndɛ than usual time, but I think that enough information was sent out there and we are sure that prepare at this time to listen to the show. All right, see, yeah, good idea. The new heavens and the new earth, the temple of God, the tabernacle of God, and the fact that God is now dwelling among those. Another one, God is now dwelling, among us in the new heavens and in the new earth. I believe there's a be a akɔdɔ in the program to the original kotodwe opinion kwenu ana kwesina ɛna memuneji wa that will be done enterprise Roberta die Roberta die. I believe that for some time for now that at least you have learned something, as far as the new heavens and the new earth is concerned. I believe that we'll see BB our home. And say last week, when I had chapter 21 or yet baby, into that may can we will try there. We will try to look at chapter 22 as well. That mama can another mokodoma can no or just one and the same. Nihinara other no kasada for whom ever home. Say last week you concluded there's no reservation when it comes to the bride of Christ, the marriage, and the fact that we are now co-reigning, with Christ in the new heavens and the new earth. We being the bride and He being the groom. Together, we lived together. This is not something after life. This is not something we are waiting for and we are looking forward to. But oya reality, even whilst I see. Last week you concluded on that. I mean, say call any Facebook page meeting with Solomon and see ebo them previous videos and so on. Another YouTube all hope fulfilled. So videos and we try to uploading so that they be show Hana by chance for when you be a share. Revelation chapter number 22 verse 1. I mean, we are going to look at the entire chapter. We are going to consider the entire chapter. But one after the other. And in the limited discussion in our just verse 21. Okay. So you can Revelation chapter number 22 verse 1. You can some of her also there, and he showed me a pure river of water of life. So he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding from the throne of God and of the Lamb. And he showed me a pure water. No, so crunchy, nso crystal water nso a yɛ krɔngyen a ofi adom ahengua no mu ofi adom ahengua no mu olusan ɛna adom ahengua no Nyankopɔn na adom ahengua na eguama na ne ahengua no ofi ma olusan. Already we've told you that at the blowing of the seventh trumpet also that we are seeing my hinting about Christ and the can down the chapter now of Revelation 11:15 down now. Also the ohun should way no ohun ark of covenant in ewo. Okay. Then ohun there ohun ark of covenant no ho. Okay, but in pebiara ntum and all of that. So that means that access another kwana wo kwa Nyankopɔn ho no wa ba the ho, but some also the nyama bi osi and some complete and some penya access or the alcohol. And I believe Revelation chapter number 21 year kanyara mirror shurubo also the new Jerusalem new tabernacle no we ho asori bia ho se na eguamba no na Nyankopɔn aho na wo ye ne tabernacle na wo ye na asori no temple no we ne temple no ho showing you there sisia no that concrombia no if you want say yenya concrom bia impa wenya access ɛwɔ hɔ. So we say the Father and the Son co-reigning, okay, together ɛwɔ hɔ. Nti aha no so yɛhu dɛ adoma aha no so yɛhu dɛ wɔfrɛ no dɛn, what we see wɔ ha yi dɛ dɛme nsukrongyee no ofi eguamba no na egya no wɔne ahengua no mu na ofi hɔ yɛ dɛn ɔreba ɛwɔ hɔ. Now sɛ yɛte dɛm kasa yi a immediately no ɛyɛ fa na yɛkɔ another ɔde yɛkɔ back to Genesis chapter number 1. Okay, that should tell you that what we are dealing with, you know, another may the home common has to do with what we call the temple typology or a temple home and some then okay Genesis chapter number 31. Of course, I know that there are a lot of controversy when it comes to creation account, okay, but there's a reason to believe that Genesis chapter number 1 to some it has to do with temple because our temple imagery and that is what we see throughout the scriptures as related to the temple, especially there about the insu we see insu ofi a temple no more than old son there even in Genesis, in Garden of Eden, excuse me, in Garden of Eden, also flow out, okay, towards east and west and north and all of that, okay. So that should tell you that there's a common, another there's commonality, okay, another there's a nexus. Genesis chapter number 1, and a Revelation chapter number 22, and yankophobia then or the one mu ɛwɔ connect ɛwɔ hɔ, okay. Nti yɛkɔ one a yɛhu dɛ dɛm kasa no bi yɛ den ɔwɔ hɔ, okay. But here in Revelation chapter number 22 verse 1, we are looking at temple imagery. Yɛhwɛ Yankopɔn ne temple ho asam ɛwɔ ha. Now ɔkasa for nsu ho, nti yɛmbra ho nem kakra. Yɛhwɛ nsu a nsu yɛ very ɔyɛ ade ohia pa, ano ogyina dem a symbol of life. In fact, without life, another without water, there will not be life. Okay, na nsusu nyi nkwan yi hɔ a yɛbɛyɛ den yɛbɛbubu ɛwɔ hɔ. Dɛm na ɔte. Nti na ɛhwɛ wiase mpo a nsu na nkoten offer about over 70% because water is essential for life. In fact, we are a symbol of life. Nti obiara hia nsu ɛwɔ hɔ. Okay, nti yɛhwɛ 1 or 2 passages bi a ɔma yɛhu dɛ indeed nsu na ɔyɛ abade. Nsu ohia de manyimpa biara. What we are looking at in Revelation chapter number 22 verse 1, we are looking at that pure river of of life, pure river of water of life, okay, as crystal as possible, proceeding from the throne of God and of the Lamb. So let's see how Mayesha Damaka say, okay, verses 7 here, normal H2O water inside your way around. Then I share how the two, the nexus, the connection between the two, because here we are looking at it from the spiritual point of view, Revelation chapter number 21. But I'm pretty sure you have 1 or 2 texts here, or from that physical point of view, in Genesis chapter number 2, beginning at verse 2. Bible is on an American, okay, back in Genesis, okay. Bible is there. Now a river went out from Eden. Okay, so here it says that Revelation chapter number 22 in Sufi and Kopon Hoya then Oraba when Aduma him going Moraba. But I said the water went out of Eden. Eden to water the garden, okay, and from there it parted and became 4 heads. Until in Sunofi, what Orbana obugugu in Drazwad Wohono, okay, Odu baby no muche ahen anan ewoho, and of course, second, I can at Cheroku Winima, verse 10 of Genesis 2, no, Obobo Sunu, Dam in Suana Nina Woodino Hawk. I take Paul, the Gian, the Hit, and Euphrates, okay, and of course the this is the 4 heads of Insuna oil and Ochichim that is coming out from Eden, and of course, Damayakano, the may it's on Mama Maunyara, it's in Ewoho, and then you notice as be also there. It also talk about the gold in that land and the precious stones as well. So you can the wealth of Eden, you there, the main gold in them precious stones in your and then all. So that should give you some pause, occasion of pause to think about this. Then we are looking at temple imagery, okay, that we have already looked at in the in previous chapter. Actually, chapter number Revelation chapter number 21. I can about this precious stone, them gemstone, the all the diamond and Baba na Bobo Bodini na the one Baba Binara so Yehun war both in chapter 22 as well as in Genesis. Okay, so that should tell you there at least we are looking at Enyama Yeshan Wahano, it has to do with temple. Okay, the blessings of you being in the temple of God and the salvation that you attend to. Say me I Christ now so numa in the main in be our. Okay, so previously we have looked at those stones, the gemstones, the gold and everything. Okay, that indicate that those materials are for the temple, are of which the temple was based. Okay, so that suggests once again that we are dealing with temple imagery, and see both in Revelation chapter number 21 and Revelation chapter number 22, we are looking at yes, at the core and so say and then the same temple now yehun war chapter 21 no, the holy city, the new Jerusalem and what have you, the new heavens and the new earth no, on also pepe in the year war chapter 22 no. So of course I mean originally there was no chapter division when it comes to the scriptures. Bible me watch on and pap into chambiara and then chambiara ni onyim into no it was just one whole subject. But either somewhere 16th century in the monk was it Australian monk or whoever, other than chapter division or the other. Or the bum say him will be bringing hard that say you move from one chapter to the another subject matter, another some work can then or Sasan Elho. No, that is not the case. It is just one and the same. It's in Revelation chapter number 21. About them constituent elements now or associate temple no on also be our chapter number 22. But we are looking at the waters. Reason why you Revelation Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 ni hinara so you will show of war of Eden no than oracle out, okay? And for what purpose? Also to feed the plant and also for survival of mankind. So that should tell you that while Genesis focuses on physical life, Revelation chapter number 22, it focuses on spiritual life, salvation, and for remission of sins and so on and so forth. And so that may it's just the Revelation chapter number 21. It's just the continuation of Revelation chapter number 22. No. All right. So again, yeah, kasafa essentiality of water, no, and its relationship to life, no. Yeah, share Bible no in some occur another BNB our I mean, what boy me who the may I don't know how essential is water, okay, to life, okay. Now, Yabaka Yambra, I mean Hagar and Hagar, Abraham Opam no Bible may you there. After the Sarah catch and Mount Koi and all of that, because it's in some Hunu Hono. The Hun Abraham, Omano, Oman quite a ladder container be baggy be, northern sugar crajugum, northern abode who's there then, other abode with the come now, or catch an order for call baby if you bear call Egypt, okay. But Bible may tell us the embra or the party, or start to oil or cono, do in the wilderness, of Bathsheba, or my Bible may tell us that indeed, news to say, okay, that that skin, that water in the skin was used up, okay. Now the Afrano or Ishmael. Hagar didn't call to, I mean, shrouds in Fubi, none or ho. Okay, no, not all than auction who, or the fuel because no one people who can a banaba for the bed than Obu Ewoho. Okay, so that should tell you how essential water is, okay, to sustain life on this planet as a whole. And see, I mean, Damana Yamaya then Yamakoka Ewoho, and then also the Bible says God says open the God opened her eyes and she saw a well of water and she went and filled the skin with water and gave okay, and gave that Ishmael, drink. Okay, or money be more than or no me ever hunty. On my year there, even when man is dry, okay, when man has no water, okay, God has a way of supplying, mankind with water, okay. Mbira okro wano no nyim na yida du hina asa yim there, obi nya nsu mpo na so Yakobon for kwan be do then o provide nsu, okay, so that at least obutum bana survive, obutum was surviving there obu wie na akwantu no the obo surviving, okay, na journey no to Egypt ewo ho. So dama na nyama yɛ den nyama ten ɛwɔ hɔ. God always has a way a ɔde yɛ den ɔde boa ne man ɛwɔ hɔ. I believe also in Genesis chapter number 26 verse 18. Yɛhunu mbere Jacob, okay, sorry, Isaac ɛna Philistine for no. I mean the dispute that ensued between them. Mbere Isaac to no super ɛna Philistine for no wa baby sue ufan and ibura no otu no bura pɛ na waba abɛɛ den wa baby sue no and then back and forth occurred because of course there was tension and all of that. So was that able to nubra and Philistine for no abe then baby sued the mibra no one to say Genesis chapter number 26, verse 18, Bible may who there. And so we are looking at the flow of water from that physical dimension, okay, in with respect to essentiality of water for the survival of the entire planet. Okay, without water, no. So yɛnyɛ nso a yɛbɛyɛ dɛn yɛbɛwu wɔ hɔ nti ɛka Genesis chapter number 26 verse 18 I'll say, and Isaac dug again and the wells of water which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistine had stopped them after the death of Abraham. He called by the names which his father had called them. So Isaac's servant dug in the valley and found a well of running water. But the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, the water is ours. So he called the name of the well Isaac, because they quarreled with him. So all of them were looking for water to even feed their cattle or their animals with, okay. And then you can see, of course, even in Africa recently, that dispute, will continue. Okay, because even in Africa, I think somewhere Egypt and Ethiopia, when they wanted to build a dam on the Nile, I think a dispute arose. Okay, misunderstanding arose between them. See, so that misunderstanding, and another dame want you know, on yanda basam or yada what's na for centuries. Even in the days of Isaac, the many money be oil than okay, but just look at it. Just look at it. How Yankopon was in today's Shirahin. Over 75% of ewiase nara no nsu na ɔyɛ den nsu na ɔwɔ hɔ. Hwɛ how a Yankopɔn wayɛ den ɔde dɛm nsu yi nyinara ɔde ama hen ɛwɔ hɔ. But it's just unfortunate that we are not able to maintain this river bodies ɛwɔ hɔ. But nowadays, I mean, sometimes I hear yɛyɛ pharmacy sɛ ɛkɔ bush I mean, nanka yɛwɔ nsu bebree ɛwɔ hɔ a ɛde wɔ adefo hɔ na nka akɔ akɛse obi na yɛ den. I no wahu sɛ wɔwɔ kurom no so ebu ewu pipe pɛ ɛna nsu yɛ den nsu name and all of that. Okay, you get spring water from what see, but in there what do we see? Yeah, that Yankopɔn hu the nexus between life and other survivability, and also creation. But in there what do we see? Do we still see that in the most of the nsu nyinara why them was no ɛwɔ hɔ? So at that, what we do is that we drink sachet water and a bottle water. Okay, this the mean in the sister then yenum. I don't call it natural things now or yeah essential to life, Turns that our birthright, we have to pay for in today's time. Why? Because in this year most of the insurance that the henchen in why them was sent no I side in body. I mean guarantee is just all over the place. And I don't know what the authorities are doing. You see, these things are on your still birth a whole lot of issues in a year then yenya as far as this guarantee activities are concerned. But looks at the authorities, they what's in a hall without consent, and it's not good thing at all. So woman shana with too many years. So at least dɛm na nneɛma yɛ dɛn nneɛma ɔte ɛwɔ hɔ I mean sɛ yɛpɛ nsuo a ɔyɛ healthy sisi a wɔ Ghana even sachet water no koraa maa ate dɛ ebinom post dɛ wɔ doubt ne dɛ ɔyɛ healthy ɔyɛ potable ɔyɛ consumable okay because of this minute chemicals that are invisible to the eye nti lɔnde ahono a wɔwɔ sika no nsu na wɔyɛ dɛn I mean bottled water na wɔnom but it says that then they dug another well and they quarreled over that one. So he also named it Sitna, and he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he called it, he called it a name Rehoboth because he said, "For now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land." So these are the I mean he attributes the blessings of the flowing of the water in that world to God. Okay, how Yankopon why is Shazama hun ewo and once again ono mayehu kwana insu oboa oye adihiade ode mahena setena as well as yen survivor ewo God supplies water even when there's a dispute, okay, when there's a trouble over trying to assess it. I mean, because of the whether there's dispute or not, people still need the water to drink. Okay, for survival. Okay, all right, but another one of the most notable times, you who Bible it already got in Israel for one with Egypt war Canaan no in my summer osi ho Ibra Israel for what complaining then to come the horn and all of that until Moses ko Yankopon ho no ka chere dem na nko fi wo so no so okay da mababa na o ho no se kwa kasa chere baba no nso bi film die then other but I think that Moses ana o se wiazi mi hinara den no ono na oye bi o wa ho brase pa no jama na ade na amen no see sometimes when you try to push people okay hard to the world now they give up their their friend then when should be our okay now what they turn into something else until and be all cry no I mean nebufu wom say instead of don't go back as I shall be ban mun so if ma ba no or the baba or the nepman or the then or the bob bano do pa then so film ya then obey second Corinthians 10 as ana dam baba no no Christ. And in other words, at the not man or the boy Jesus in the team, the young baby or the boy, the son and how about the one or so, or the bonnet team, okay. And see, because of that, he was shown Canaan, but okay, and one another day, one rinse water. So that is, sometimes, say, bufu, no, regardless of any level of a bufu, no, ma, yan fan, yan maybe. Okay, but try to control your temper. On yet the ma, able to that say, so that is what happened to Moses. Okay, he was made to see Canaan, but none why then when see how and see that me that mama can Paul or recorded the main story no First Corinthians chapter number 10. Okay. I mean, when they did Dambabana no follow, Dambaban was Christ, or more protection. Okay, at the time, Egypt, war chase one at the Red Sea, but at the point in the day, and also the one found Buma, Uncle Sanchana consume film brand one be. Okay, and so we have what we call the types and antitypes. So what we saw there was just the type. Into reality, on the Yehun war in John chapter number 4 and Revelation chapter number 22 no be yeba kasa ho afa ho me John chapter number 4 no as time goes on no all right so uh another notable one that we find mentioned in the Old Testament, and the New Testament, in terms of the need and desire for water when it was scarce, was the time of Elijah. Was Second Kings chapter number, First Kings chapter number 17 verse 1. Bible says that Elijah the Tishbite of the inhabitant of Gilead Gilead said to Ahab, "As the Lord of God of Israel lives, before whom I stand, there shall be no dew nor rain these years except at my word." Then the Lord of God came to him and saying, "Get away from here and turn eastward and hide by the brook Cat that which flows into the Jordan, and it will be that you shall drink from the brook, and I will command the ravens to feed you there. So honestly, being shoe, but I wanna work say. All right. So once again, you there. Here is Yankopon the prophet. That time in the Kuruma, then Kuruma fi. Okay, in terms of water, why fi, assassin why fi, in terms of water, and I Yankopon oil then Osma Elijah and tells him that he should go to both feed him, but uh as a issue aba wahyɛ nkɔm na ɔsɛ awɔde the kwadam brooks of Carthon no ɛwɔ de ebi yɛ nsu na nnoma bɛyɛ dɛ nnoma wɔ baby feed wɔ so over and over again no ɛyɛ na Bible no that should tell you how essential water is. Okay, nti yehu wɔ Bible no mu no over and over again no the Bible show us that God supplies that which is essential to life. Okay, you should also go to the brooks. These are the essentials. Okay, you should say now one area. Okay, so again, another notable passage, that refers to that one is eschatological, and in other words, times of the end. That may and also the democracy but those things that are we are dealing with in the book of Ezekiel, okay, in the book of Ezekiel, I mean we can also find it from Ezekiel chapter number 19, where it talks about a fountain of water of uncleanness, shall be open for the house of David. Okay, so this is what we are also going to talk about. Zechariah chapter number 13, it has to do with end time passage. Your end time passage. The may end time now what can use end time passage. But then this gives us um okay. So Yankane share was Zechariah chapter number 13, Zechariah chapter number 13, verse 1. It says that in that day a fountain shall be opened for the house of David and for the inhabitants of Jerusalem, for sin and for uncleanness. So from that perspective, was Zechariah chapter number. Is it on there was going to be a physical fountain? And yeah, in Subin or yes, Jerusalem, why then? Why Baba says, why baby cleaning Israel? No, on them. But this has to do with it's more about atoning blood of Christ. Okay, that will bring about salvation, that will bring about cleanliness. Okay, that is going to destroy the idolatry because it's going to turn the heart of uh Israel towards God and all of that. But at the same time, idea seems to suggest living waters as well. Okay, there as a living water. Okay, but what we are talking about in Zechariah chapter number 13, okay, that has to do with Yankopon atonement ne afarobo no nkwaja ode and ojebre yimpa ewo. But that also seems to suggest that it is talking about living waters because also there's going to be open up in Jerusalem. Okay, the fountain. Okay, then the what is the fountain in Suna wo bubu no ho no bed and also babo hohoro ho. Egua na wube bugoro na mu obo hohoro bon, and we know that Yakopon another Christ no moje no ode bon fefiri die den ode ba because ehwe Zechariah chapter number 14 verse 8 na Bible no kada elsewhere in that day. So the same day Zechariah chapter 13 in that day, Zechariah chapter number 14 in that day. So I was also in that day it shall be that living waters shall flow from Jerusalem. So there's going to be open a fountain of water in Jerusalem for uncleanness. And in chapter 14 of Zechariah chapter number 18, this was there shall be that same day, there shall be living waters. Also, living waters shall flow from Jerusalem, half of them towards the eastern sea, and half of them toward the western sea. So also in both summer and winter, it shall occur. So this is same. These are the echoes of Revelation chapter number 22. Okay, it's sort of fulfillment of Zechariah chapter number 21, 13, and Zechariah chapter number 14. So, and the say Israel during the time of the siege now, and that prophecies that was spoken, okay, about the day that will come, okay, that day and the day of the Lord, because in that day, it's just all about the day of the Lord. Or a Christ in the or then, or about no who assem in the quadri then, or the by oh, into yes, them prophecies, about the siege of Imra, Roman Ashoda for no Titus sitting when you mobucha, Jerusalem who share no Baba say now, actually, that comes now, Matthew chapter number 24 and Luke chapter number 21 now. It speaks about these living waters that are going to flow from where? From Jerusalem. So this will be the consequences and results. Ebra Christ why then there's going to be a time of salvation. Why? Because uncleanness will be taken away from Israel and Jerusalem and so on and so forth. Now remember that we are talking about New Jerusalem in Revelation chapter number 22. Okay, so that in Sunofi Jerusalem no Zechariah chapter number 13 and Zechariah chapter number 14. No, oh yeah, that Jerusalem no say no, but we are talking about the new Jerusalem. We are talking about new heavens and a new earth. We are talking about the bride of Christ. Okay, our fi yankopon hoye den or about and then soon them pure water, that crystal water no so fi yankopon ahingwan mu hoye den or about elho and see change subject to no elho. Okay, so that will be the time that is being referred to, okay, in terms of the living waters that are flowing from Jerusalem, as in that day, that unknown day, okay, that is referred to in Matthew chapter number 24 and verse 22. Okay, so in that day, now that in that day no, of Zechariah chapter number 13, in that day, the Madana or Zechariah chapter number 40, on I say the Madana or Matthew chapter number 24, verse 36. Now, I've been was there. Damadan, I've been a done to be a remuno. Say, Pedret, Damakasana, Jesus Obokutin was Zechariah chapter 14, verse 5, into Ekana 5 and 6, into Ekana Bumuno source, into my can or one I be a into once now, and then the Israel wide dream there been a donny be a remuno. It was just a mere reiteration from Zechariah chapter number 14. Zechariah Mosha won't come no in the Jesus is no better than. And it's all about Christ or about northern quadrizide and other, but so that obi biara opian quadino oba ho ba so bi wide and one. In other words, obi biara oba no hono oba ho no ho efi mono ho na da mon quadino we ye bi ewo ho. And that is why ya can Revelation chapter number 22 no. Ya can Revelation chapter number 22 no. Okay, Revelation chapter number 21 no. Also the gates now, for gates now what you call city no no. Metre asɔre no mu no ɔsɛ wɔntu mu da, telling you that sisi ya no abo ne da hɔ Jewfo wɔn de no, especially during the one feast Sabbath na ade no wɔtutu wɔn gate no mu nti sɛ ayɛ wɔ ade na nkehyɛ mu ɛbɛ kɛkyi, but the new Jerusalem ya yɛ kɛ the new temple the ne gate no ɔda hɔ da wɔntu mu anapa another invader, it is just there forever and ever. So that is the difference between the two no ɔsɛ yɛ den yɛhyɛ no nso ɛwɔ hɔ. Okay, also yes, and so all right, so yes, another one. So that is also dealing with waters that will flow from the temple. Okay, in short, because what we are looking at in my Revelation chapter number 22, no, or yeah, in short, of temple, Yankupon the temple, the throne is one and equal with temple. Of temple no more than Orebanum. In the actual bisu or Pamde no more, how and she be of Yankupon ahi, Yankupon if you know than okra out no. Was Zechariah chapter Ezekiel chapter number 14, verse 1 and 9. 1 to 9, us there. Then he brought me back to the door of the temple. So we are talking about the temple. He brought me back to the doors of the temple, okay? And doors of the temple. The doors of the temple. And there was water flowing from under the threshold of the temple towards the east. For the front of the temple faced east, and the water was flowing from under the right side of the temple south of the altar. Okay, so we have the altar of God. So we are in the Lord's presence at this time. Now, Genesis, it was just the same. In the Garden of Eden, there was also in Shan and also them. That may kind of Genesis chapter number 2. In Shan also all flow outward, okay, from Eden towards them this south and west and what have you. No? Okay, so that is telling you there. I am a Genesis chapter number 1 and 2. No, or onye Yankopon the temple or Yankopon the temple imagery be. Okay, I believe there. I'm a person that believe the Garden of Eden. No, okay, especially maybe on the Tree of Life, or a temple mountain or a cosmic temple. And Adam was a high priest. At least Ezekiel chapter number 8. Ezekiel chapter number is it 8? Oh my Yehudame scenario no then it wasn't just mere a garden. Boy, Yankopon so for Penina no open name on behalf of the year while bring Yankopon widen waba garden no munu okay. So you with the temple image, because the same water going out, Yankopon Ezekiel 47, Yanko in Suso if Yankopon the temple then or Konabo in Sunoko, Yankopon one and Kawa, in Sunoko, okay, then or the Quajin or the then or the Banteco Revelation chapter number 2, verse 2 now, 22 verse 2, back there, the may lives in our one or for the healing of the nations, and also your abortion in Ebia next video. No, okay, so that my water is flowing, okay, from there from from 3 parts into from there into that 4 heads na here then yebobodinu until you have temple and generally associated with temple. I mean them 4 direction no them temple no temple bia no at least from Jew for one and 4 gates in Revelation chapter number 22 Yankopon the temples those are 4 gates. I also them 4 gates no then 1 2 mu that and we have that water and soon so of temple no but only much for telling you that at least wherever you are no maybe I will be around no ebotumi enya abade ebotumi enya dame nkwa no okay. I believe that is to some extent yes them temple imagery and salvation as well yehu dame kasa no okay. So here he's speaking of it as he's talking about temple facing east, south, and west. And see also but here also there, I mean the temple is facing the east, and the water from under the threshold of the temple towards the east. For the front of the temple faced Ezekiel chapter number 47, 1 to 9 and Americano. The water was flowing from under the right side of the temple, south of the altar, and he brought me out by the way of the north gate and led me around the outside to the outer gateway that faces east, and there was water running running out of the right side. And when the man went out to east with a line in his hand, he measured 1,000 cubit. But I mean, that 1,000 cubit measurement, it seems to indicate those same directions, okay, that we see in Genesis chapter number 2 of the waters flowing out of the temple, okay, the same direction. I mean, I feel there or canon, but here because it flows out, old flow or flow out of olugu out, okay. And yes, I mean Israel for no and every especially me for no every year biano walk Jerusalem 3 times a year for no, okay, in order for you to know the atonement. And that day of atonement was one of the times that they went along with the other feast days as well. See, one of them they have to go out, okay, to Egypt and all of that. Thus, we also have the Munshi and also then also Oracle out. But rather than having to go up to Jerusalem, no, okay, so in the new heavens and the new earth, well, old heaven and earth, no, Israel for Israel for baby will be twice a year, every also there Jerusalem. You have to go up to Jerusalem twice a year. Another in Pene Basa Afibiara also there called Jerusalem. Okay. But for free a year can for no New Jerusalem no rather than the Oboko Jerusalem no. Sisano is the waters of the Jerusalem that is flowing out and going out in all direction. Okay, indicating that this is healing. This is life healing water. And once this is and quite then Obo because Israel funa walk ho especially during the feast of atonement why one bonapata ho afasha na na walk ho. Okay, walk ho so that they will be the me bonafasha na in and all of that. But this time around, rather than suno and kwajin suno and kwansu na sisi one more than other ba in power. So that is what we do. That is what we honoring is and the true evangelism. That evangelistic work, okay, is to bring that living water to you. And to say Jesus, then you have access to this living water. Then you participate of this living water of Christ. You participate of the salvation of Christ. Ebe yankopon abaze nkwaji ni bi ewo ho because wo ye de boy ye da sam na ye de bro na agiti pe na yakobo wesu ye bo wesu a wahoro bo na etu egu na enya abade enya nkwa ewo. So that is the difference. Whilst under the old covenant also the impact of Jerusalem no na okenya da nkwaji this time around no dey nkwaji mum no oil than all be power because Jesus only we no also also on fast and from corner the obo bejeju no obo esu no be den obi nya nkwa ewo ho and that is what we continue to do today. And the man adene then or this is them healing water no another this is life sustaining water. Okay, it's now flowing to everyone in every single direction. Okay, north, east, south, and west. It's baby will be no edge yankopon na asem di na se ebu so abeye den ebi yankwa titles ka for yankopon na enyim nyam na no kwagin will appear to every man. So all what you have to do no is just to believe and to be baptized. Na bo modern baby Christ na so will be no kohobi Echo Jokwa Church of Christ or Echo de Sumwa or just by your baby say if you Cape Narokwa or left hand side if you personal or right hand side or I also Brabaju Kofodia Church of Christ I also your Brabaju Kofodia here there Frank Echo Frank new school who before Budo Frank new school who no yana so down or bisa Church of Christ ma wɔn baa na wɔn bɔ nsɛm na wɔntua tight na ayi nso yɛ wɔ hɔ bi wɔ hɔ brɛ na ɛyɛ ma wɔn som na enya dɛm nkwagye na mfaso bi because ndanso ebu so ma obi a claim bi but you see wɔsi dɛ hwehwɛ yankopɔn n'ahema no ana n'ahema no na mo aka yɛn so ahen di wɔhwehwɛ dɛm na ɔte ɛwɔ nye obi ɔsɛ ewurade nye obi ɔsɛ asɔre na ɔyɛ that right church no ɛwɔ hɔ but wɔrɛ kɔ a hwɛmɛdikanfoɔ yɛ na ɔ bible mu na fa toto ho dɛ aso da wɔyɛ de in the bible no say ana hwɛndɛ Ghana ha so called two prophets na ɔda abo enyim na enyire hyehyɛ nya ahoroba na enyire dumi nyi nowhere in history yenyi damage yenyi no annals of history there and I record there yankopɔn ne contemporary prophet wɔ kwen da it is telling you something nti ɛhɔ abo ewe nwa ɛwɔ hɔ nti dama yɛ ka no sisi ankwagye na ɔreba impa wɔ ɛwɔ from every direction bebi bebiara ɛwɔ biara no ebenya dame access ni bi sisi ɔyɛ geocentric first no de no nko ɔyɛ was sent no Israel was sent no Jerusalem okay but this time round ɔyɛ geocentric ɔyɛ everywhere all what you have to do is just to believe sorry now ko baby a Christ now so no yɛ dem now so no bi wɔ dem am kan brabaji ebi wɔ hɔ jekwa ebi wɔ hɔ abum so ɛkɔ abum bi wɔ hɔ abum ɛpa metro mass station one ara ekwa wenyi ma no so ebi ewo ho and this time round on geocentric but everywhere damakasa no e na oba wo between Jesus na besia no ewo Jacob's well Samaritan besia no and Samaria besia no na Jesus Christ the man common bi no oye den oba the man common na wodi wo ho no okay wa bra I mean one of the things that was mentioned no ewo the chapter no John chapter number 4 no mu about the place of worship. Is any justified that they be also in person of Mount Gerizim, Kukwedo, Jacob, when I was me. I mean, there was that tension between Jerusalem and Samaria for no, okay, because the temple no Jesus Christ no Israel no Jerusalem no also where then was because I want him that was okay, but the Chioba no a time will come the temple will no longer be hot geocentric. Okay, but no kwara som for bosom yankopon wo sunsum na no kwaram e wo baby ara e wo ho nti ehwe imagery na temple imagery na ye kana all four directions no north east south and west meaning the baby ara wo bia no this time around nkwaji has been brought to you so just believe na baby a Christ na asore wo no just corner and here nkwankosom e wo ho biasefo Briasofo nyinaa abrishia them kurokuo no nyinaa Christ now so ni bi ɛwɔ. So God being everywhere flows through the so God being everywhere no Yankopon no baby no you know on flow through our Lord Jesus Christ to all people, okay? And that is very, very significant, you know, given the subject matter which we, you know, I mean, we will touch on later in, you know, John chapter number 48. And see, the man or baby, I know Yankopon flow for Christ him, or the Behimpa, or the brain pay biara ewo. And see, the man Ezekiel chapter number 47, no, verse 3, no, or Kadama assembly be ewo. Also there, and also when verse 3, no, Ezekiel 47, verse 3, also there, and when the man went out to the east with a line in his hand, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he measured 1,000 cubits. Okay, well, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he brought me through the waters. The water came up to my ankles, and I mean, just read the entire chapter. But also there, the waters came up to my ankles, and he measured 1,000 and brought me through the waters. The waters came up to my knees, and the church is of full concern from a sir from ne ankles no sisi a wabebudu no kotodwe original kotodwe ye chia o sisi wabebudu no kotodwe e wo ho. Also then he brought me and returned me to the bank. Where am I? Okay, now and he measured 1,000 and brought me through the waters up to my waist. This is if he kotodwe sisi aba nisisu. And he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not cross. He said, for the water was too deep, the water in which one must swim, another river that could not be crossed. So he said to me, Son of man, have you seen this? Then he brought me and returned me back to the river bank, and I will return there along with the bank of the river. There were very many trees on one side and on the other side. Yeah, Yamibu next week, Yabana Yerekana. Yakanta verse 2 now of Revelation chapter number 20. The good was there in Sunu, then Sunu Chanch and in Diana, and Diana and that leaves, you know, for this as it, that image, temple image, you know, I am a for another watch on one comes a boom. And say, Bawa, and Yada, if you know, a bat, or Yada, but no, but I won't there any more framework, no. Yeah, that's it. I mean, upon that domain framework, my dad say. But nevertheless, then he said to me, this water flows toward the eastern region, goes down into the valley and enters the sea. So if you want to say, all right, then now kobo epum ewo now epuna ya kan wa ha no or your Dead Sea or your power then wewu ewo ho epo a onyi nkwa ewo ho. But in sunu so oreba no or your living waters. And see, what do you think will happen to Epono, Epa, Wewu no? So, in Kwansunu Kokuguma, I do that obey then wo. Okay, what will happen? Okay, Wabra Nkwansu all flow into a Dead Sea. Okay, there's going to be what a transformation. Transformation is going to take place. That way will not bear than Oba revive the beam, and that is what happens. Say, Eji Yankopon na semnidi. Say, Eji Yankopon na semnidi. Na yebu eso a yenya nkwa yefa crisis a yenya nkwa amiyo wunyan na nkwa de ojimizi no wumpo obede obetena say Christ is the very source of life, and to say wu because you have been alienated from God as a result of sin. Na say ja assembly di assembly your word of life assembly de nkwa na odeba say gidi na so wo bo eso a obo wo ho dan boni na atu egu na bebenya nkwa ewo Yankopon na aso no mu. Nti Act chapter number 2 verse 47 also da Yankopon de kana aso no ho ahuna wareje ho no nkwa. And to be saved, you know, you have to see yourself being found, and you have to see yourself in the Lord's church. Okay, that I refers to it. I'm in Mekono because that is where I belong to. But I'm and to feel there was in the man or time. What you have to do is just compare. Say binum na wodi nkan wo kwa asɔre Christ is obi si na asɔre. And just compare them wo ye no ho dam na wo ya. Wo ma be say nkyerɛkyerɛ ba no bo yɛmfa hia no fanfa yɛmfa nto nwom be yɛntua tight because Jesus and GB Paul and GB or ya pam da wadze yɛmbɔ esu na mfa nya nkwankwa Christ na asɔre no mu. See, these are the basic things I also dey them. Yeah, in order to optimize, in order to make our redemption journey complete. And see, when the answer you get the menya another accident. That is all what you have to do. There's no argument. There's no argumentation. Then at the minute, just make sure that you pattern whatever you do. No, at that to first century, home. Also better than a benyankwa ewo. Okay, so in sooner or about out, or about call. I would have Revelation chapter number 21, verse 1. Also, who also as for na can it also there was no more word. See the Jonathan who were considered dead. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 1 and 2. And also Isaiah chapter number 60, verse 1. See, they were considered dead. But so this time around, okay, yeah, we'll be being 11 waters, we'll be being 11 water, no, but revive one. If you wound that by him, with that come, and that is what is even taking place today. Fulfillment does not mean cessation. Yeah, because be for very you know, saying that's the guys know about we know all corner zina, yeah, then what no understand me the fulfillment, does not mean salvation. What we are what it means that we are enjoying the blessings of the fulfilled eschaton. So, a transformation, okay, that takes place. The waters are healed, okay. Waters eponoid and will heal in no in the move from way what about come, what by Yankopon when you access Yankopon in no or healing no it reaches the sea and it says that eight waters are healed. And the baby Christ is the very living waters. Then we'll come John chapter number 4 next week here by Yabaka. He is the very living waters. On no yabadi in suno, in suno, and this edge needs a walk who bonnet to egu that will revive my then abankum elho. So and so in the life-giving waters, that flows from the temple, that indicate the fact that they are for healing, and they are healing waters, that they are waters that bring about salvation. Whether you are talking about from the physical standpoint of view, that may impempo yewe yenyensu yanoma yebeyeden yebowu ewo and so from spiritual dimension also say nya Christ or 11 waters yenye bi yanom yanso yanoma no so yebeyeden yebowu ewo because we yata say that nsu yabade essential to life, and that is what heals the body. And this is an example where we are looking at water. We are talking about that which, of course, heals the soul. Revelation chapter number 22, it heals the soul. One of the other than osa impa wa wokrano or your wadjuma, and literal waters, and it's just, living water that descend from Yankopon about Nahim Gwanwa. So, yenya access or your kwahu ejuma or your crown abadi ejuma elho. All right, Brother Zuko follow the Church of Christ in Yana money 055153581805515358118. A friend I bajodo a person I Brother Zuko follow dia a hiara bra nearby binya and qua which be yankwa ne yankwaji elho. I mean kind I am who when it amen.